Welcome back and hello if you're new. So as you guys probably know, albums are incredibly close to my heart. So here in the UK we're celebrating National Album Day today, like analysing how great they are and all that sort of stuff. I thought I'd kind of bring you guys on sort of my journey with the records. So understanding the idea of the album, I've picked 11 albums that have kind of not only kind of been with me through some kind of like tough times, but you know, albums that I kind of grew up on and really kind of shaped my taste for what it is today, really. So, kicking things off is Megadeth's Rust in Peace. Now, it's a funny story. I remember I was looking in HMV, the record shop. I was actually looking for Metallica. And I remember seeing the spine and it said Rust in Peace, and I was like, wow, this is really interesting. So I picked it out, and this was back in the day where you had to go to the side of the cash desk and there was a little CD player, and I put it in, and I remember the first time I heard Holy Wars, I was absolutely blown away. Then I heard the solo at the end of the song, and I was just like, okay, whatever, that trumps Metallica, no problem. But the biggest thing for me was that I was 15 when I first found that album, and that was when I started playing guitar. For me, it's my personal favourite thrash metal album of all time. Up next is Opeth's Ghost Reveries. Now, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I'm a pretty big Opeth fan. First time that I heard anything to do with Opeth really was actually from one of those Metal Hammer giveaway CDs, and it must have been like winter time or something, and I was walking home, it was really dark at about 7 o'clock at night, and I heard those opening chords of Ghost of Perdition. I'd never heard anything that was that atmospheric, that engaging, and really like evil. If you really listen to Ghost Reveries as an album, it's so evil, but what I love the most about it is that Opeth were able to kind of like change in an instant and go into this really serene, quiet sanctuary with clean vocals and clean guitars, all that sort of stuff. And Ghost of Perdition was the song that started it all off for me. You are well in the vein and scarred by design, shut down lost potential, crazy from your... It took me a long time to get my head around the Dillinger Escape Plan's Ironworks, and I kind of left it for a while, and then I came back, and I think when I was a bit more mature in my tastes, I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. And I loved the kind of like organised chaos that Dillinger have always had. But Ironworks for me was kind of like the first time that I'd heard that sort of crazy experimental avant-garde nature of metal. And at first, you know, like I first heard that when I was, what, 16, something like that, 17. And it really kind of was a bit like, oh, this is a bit too much, I can't do this. But now revisiting it, it's one of my favourites. I remember, right, I skipped school on the day this was released just to be able to be the first kid who actually got a copy on CD. Machine Head's The Blackening is, I personally think, a modern day Master of Puppets. And it's a shame about, you know, the recent news of Machine Head, but I mean, all things do evolve, I guess. But yeah, The Blackening will remain one of my all-time favourite albums forever. So this is probably the first prog album that I ever listened to, and it was courtesy of my friend and best man, Chris Schollenberger, who's a total dude. My first exposure to that really technical side of prog as well. But what I loved the most, and still do, about Train of Thought is the fact that it's such a heavy album. I realised that it's part of that, it's the ending of the previous album has the same note as the beginning of the next album, and I just thought that was so cool. Train of Thought and Metropolis Part 2 have always been kind of like there as two of my favourite Dream Theater albums. This was the first time I'd ever heard anything like this. It was at the time when my friends were showing me the Red Chord, Black Dahlia Murder, Job for a Cowboy, and I remember hearing Colours, and it was the first time that I'd heard, you know, those kind of like musical reliefs which could kind of reappear in a track, and it was like nothing I'd ever heard before. And not to mention, you know, like combining all these different genres. There's a reason it's so critically acclaimed in the way that it's basically made a new genre out of something, and I feel that that was that time where there was a new genre kind of emerging, and Colours is definitely responsible for that, for sure. And yeah, it's still one of my favourite albums of all time. I will defend this album until I die. I absolutely loved this record, and I personally think it's the kind of stepping stone for me that got me into melodic death metal. Fall of Ideals is potentially one of the best metalcore records ever made, and Ollie Herbert's guitar playing on it is absolutely fantastic. And I, to this day, believe that the Black Dahlia Murder's jump up in terms of like how they were playing was because of Shannon Lucas's drums, and Shannon Lucas was on the Fall of Ideals. They've literally put everything you could want into a metalcore track in about 3.5 minutes, and it's perfect. I kind of used to do this thing where every summer I would go through a band's discography and like really go through with a fine-tooth comb, get really nerdy about it, and one summer was Death. And I remember first hearing Suicide Machine and thinking, wow, I've never heard something as complex as this. It was actually quite late in my sort of musical timeline. Like, I was aware of Death, but I was never really a massive fan. I remember I was with my mate Alex Watkins, and we were just chilling out in his shop, and we listened to it for the first time, and we were just like, whoa! And that evening we were listening to like Entombed, Carcass, all sorts of stuff. I'm talking about these albums for way too long. I remember discovering this band when I was on holiday in Florida. I was very lucky to be able to go to Florida, and I found The War Within by Shadows Fall and Trivium's Ascendancy, both at the same time, and I cannot tell you how happy I was as a kid. And I think that Trivium, you know, they've got a lot to kind of answer for bringing younger metal fans into the fold. I even actually met Matt Heafy. I've interviewed Matt and Paolo a couple of times now, but I met him at a guitar clinic. I'll see if I can find the photo, because it's a really great photo. I think it was when they just released the Crusade or something. This was a really small band from Brighton that I never got to see live, and I'm so gutted. They've broken up now, but Johnny Truant's No Tears for the Creatures is based on the book House of Leaves, which is essentially, it's kind of like about all these different things that terrify this one man. And that's kind of really got me through a lot of hard times. You know, like I was really kind of really depressed and stuff when I was in high school, and I remember just like literally just smoking outside my window, listening to Fog Lights like on repeat all the time, and it would usually be about like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's really kind of like quite a cathartic record, and you know, it's one that I've always loved and I always will, which is why I got the eye tattooed on my arm. Now, Mastodon are the kings of the concept album, and despite the band having released Leviathan, and that was like, you know, the top, this was where I really kind of got acquainted with Mastodon. All of the different creatures that they had kind of brought together, and this story, but like bringing together with the musical concept as well, and the artwork, and it was just such a cohesive package. And that, for me, is what an album is about. It's about going on a journey. You know, it could be a snapshot of what the artist was feeling at that time. It could be something totally different. It could be a metaphorical commentary on something. What I love the most about albums is that you can open them whenever you want, and you can just be transported into that realm. there is nothing like it for me. I'm such a big music fan. National Album Day, I think, really does have a place. Because there's so much streaming going on at the moment, and it's like this single track culture or playlisting and stuff like that. And I just love the old school thing of sitting down in your chair, putting a record on, and just escaping. So let me know what you guys think of National Album Day. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Drop a comment and I'll see you guys next week for the scheduled album reviews. Alright, take care.